Hi, my name is Leah Pante, and today I'm going to be talking about this book, which I'm really excited to be able to share with my Patreon friends. I'm a pretty avid reader, and I'm really into creative self-help books, so this is yet another one. It is Real Artists Don't Starve, Timeless Strategies for Thriving in the New Creative Age by Jeff Goins. I first discovered Jeff Goins through Dale Partridge's podcast, The Startup Camp, and then I discovered Jeff Goins' podcast, which is called The Portfolio Life, which I've actually done a review of previously. So I was really, really excited to be able to read his new book. So this book is about changing your mindset as a person in the creative age and kind of breaking stereotypes that have really disrupted the creative community for a really long time. So I just wanted to share with you guys a couple of the stereotypes that he goes through and breaks in this book. First and foremost, the starving artist, which is what we're not, what we don't want to be. The starving artist believes that you must be born an artist, but the thriving artist knows that you must become one. The starving artist believes he has enough talent. The thriving artist apprentices under a master. The starving artist waits to be noticed, and the thriving artist cultivates patrons. So it's something similar to this. A lot of the themes are kind of like that in this book, where he's talking about built-in stereotypes that a lot of people have kind of run into in the creative industry, and sort of acknowledging that that's not the way to be successful in this world. So the book, I know that was really loud. The book is separated into 3 sections. In this little video installment, I'm just going to be talking about part 1. So that is the mind state. So that's our personal as creative people, and also everybody kind of in this current age. It's a perspective shift. The second section is about market, so our connections and communications with other people, and the third one is about money, which is pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to kind of jump into what this first section is talking about with the mindset. What I thought was really, really interesting is that Jeff shares how this myth kind of started of the starving artist. And it started with this guy named Henry Merger in 1847, and he published a collection of short stories that were romanticizing poverty. And that collection did not really take off. It didn't really take off, and he did die kind of a starving artist. But after he died, it kind of grew into more, and that was adapted into the opera La Boheme, and from there it had spin-offs like Rent and Moulin Rouge. So what this did was it launched a totally new public understanding for what being creative is, which is starving and suffering and doing all of this in name of our art, which is not at all what we have to do. He talks a lot about Michelangelo in this first section, and Michelangelo is an artist who's really, really dear to my heart, so it was really exciting learning more and more about him. But Michelangelo kind of flaunted this starving artist vibe, but he did not at all suffer. He actually really believed that he was a born aristocrat, and so he acted that way and eventually made everyone kind of believe that, when later on that people discovered that he wasn't actually. Excuse that rude interruption. My paintings are just flying off the walls, and I just had to attend to them before they get crumpled up and smashed on the floor. So, back to the book. What I think Michelangelo did really, really well that we can learn from is not faking it until we make it, but believing it until we become it. I think there's a really different mindset in truly embodying what you think you are versus pretending what you think you are. There's something different and a little more honest about believing it until we become it that I think, I think is totally possible, and I think we can all do that. Another thing, a little lesson that I thought was really nice in this book was really taking advantage of the small steps instead of these enormous leaps. So it's often really glamorized, this like leap and the net will appear, and this kind of reckless, adventurous life. And a lot of times that's actually not, it can lead to success, and that's why we hear about that sort of thing, but that's not the most common way to reach success. So a lot more creative people have built a really stable career from doing small things every day. So a routine of 30 minutes of writing a day is going to probably be more successful for you in your writing career than dropping your day job, writing full time, and not being able to pay your bills. So really the way that Jeff is talking about doing extraordinary things is by patiently persisting forward. This is in chapter 2, another one of his ideas that he really talks about is not trying to be original anymore. So this is not a new idea, again, a not original idea with not trying to be original. But, I mean, we've heard this all the time, like real artists steal. And I think what that's saying is that there's no shame in being influenced. You know, if someone else is doing something better than you, study what they're doing and get on their level. The only way to really be successful is to keep your eyes open. So if you are really, really trying to come up with something original, you just can't. It's not actually possible. So take advantage of the things that are around you. And if you're really admiring someone's work, study under them. There's no way that you can be a master without studying under a master. So, if you love Julie Moretu like I do, you practice making sketches that look like her sketches in your spare time until it can't be replaced. This is another thing that Michelangelo did that Jeff talks about in his book, that Michelangelo started out by, he got paid to essentially make a knockoff of a famous another famous sculptor's piece. And it worked, it sold as this other famous guy's thing. And although it was definitely really shady of Michelangelo to try to sell it off as a knockoff, it also totally made him a breakout on the scene because he studied so hard under that master that he could actually pass it off. Only once you're on that level can you start adjusting things and really growing from them and really making something your own. So again, with that, not trying to be original and stealing, obviously you're not stealing and knocking things off as your own. If you are spending time admiring someone else's work and you are making work that looks like their work, you should be referencing them. If in that process your work has grown into someone else's, then that's okay. That's using stealing for your benefit. I wanted to talk about this. I thought this was a perfect example. I'm looking at my notes. In the book, Jeff brings up that Hunter S. Thompson was so inspired by The Great Gatsby that he actually copied verbatim the whole book because he wanted to get a feel for what it's like to write that way. So just another perfect example. Hunter was not spending time writing The Great Gatsby to plagiarize The Great Gatsby. He was doing it to really understand how another artist's brain works, which I just think is so awesome. So in chapter 3, which is the last chapter in this first part, it is about apprenticeship and finding a master. So half of the work that you do for yourself as a creative person or even a person in the world is becoming a master of your trade. So to do this, it's patience, perseverance, and humility, which I feel like is pretty 101. But I mean, the most important part of this is that you're not gonna, Jeff really talks about being the best that you can before you try to seek help. So if I, for example, wanted to apprentice under an artist who I thought was really exceptional, I would not try to seek them out until I could actually impress them. Of being like, I have studied your work, I've mirrored it in all these ways, I've done all these things to try to impress you specifically and get on your level so that now you can help me and I don't spend all my relationship with you catching up. So you will only find patrons, you will only find people who want to assist you in your journey if you're already doing great work. So if you're not dedicated to your your craft and you're not spending time becoming the master that you need to, the other chips are not going to fall in line. But, in hand that goes that if you're practicing privately and painting in your studio alone all day, you may be developing your skills, but you're also not reaching out to people. So the only way to actually make it big is, to kind of swallow your pride and stand on top of your mountain with everybody else that helped you. So you have to be open to be teachable and be open for, improvement, and know that there's a lot more that you could do better. So that is the first part of this book. I will be talking about the second part of the book shortly. So far, I am really enjoying it. Honestly, a lot of his ideas I've read in other books, but that's because I read a lot of books like this, so I think that's a sort of unfair assessment to say that his ideas are old. Because there are a lot of really, really cool things that I'm learning through this. So, all that to say, stay tuned for the next part, and I will see you on the internet.